Hi, everyone, and welcome back to our information sessions. We've been doing this, Heidi, now for 5 weeks. This is week number 5. We're going through
Yes.
all 5 micro credentials. Thanks for being with me. This has been so much fun to go through them with you over the last month and a half or so. Welcome here. Do you want to maybe share a little bit about who you are, and then we'll
Yes.
jump in?
Okay. Well, I'm Heidi Brandley. I'm the manager of entrepreneurship and innovation here at Alberta University of the Arts, or AUArts, as we call it. Um, and I oversee the School of Continuing Education and Professional Development as part of that role. And so that includes our micro credentials that we're going to be talking about today as professional learning. And I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, it's been so much fun because I have been learning probably since we started working on these micro credentials. I've been learning more and more about what a micro credential is, why it matters. Probably both of us are kind of have had that old school kind of learning where you're in a classroom with people, you're finding your peers, you're also learning more from an instructor that's somewhere, has been around the block a few times. But it was more in a traditional sense for me. And I've always felt like I don't know if you know this, Heidi, but I always wanted to be a teacher when I was younger. And I have
Oh,
pictures of myself drawing myself as a teacher. And now I get to sit beside my flip chart and get to coach and train and mentor in the work that I do through my business. And now specifically in the last almost 17 years now, people that are planning events. And so has been a really cool opportunity for us to integrate what AUArts is and where you want to go. And next year, AUArts is 100 years old, which is so crazy.
that's
Just
right.
and many of you that might be watching, you might know it as ACAD. So this is a bit of a transition into what Alberta University of the Arts is. But then these micro credentials have been an extension of you and your team, Heidi, where you've just really leaned in and knew that there was not just a market for it, but there were people in the world right now that want to do learning differently. So maybe can you share with us a little bit about what a micro credential is? What is that important now for today's learner, let's say, and what people can get from really participating in a micro credential that they might not get with that traditional learning way.
Yes. Well, well, micro credentials are kind of a new way of describing something that is it's a smaller focus, so it's very focused on competencies, core competencies that you'd be learning and applied learning in a short and agile format. So the online learning, it's flexible to your own schedule. You can make it work with yourself. You still get a point of contact with a facilitator, and I know that you're our facilitator for the event planning micro credential series and the certificate. And so you have the opportunity to communicate directly with professionals in the field while you're doing your learning at your own pace. And at the end of each micro credential, you're awarded a digital badge. And so that's a badge that contains all the data in the back end of what you've learned, what your competencies are that you've applied, and you can share that on your LinkedIn profile or somehow put it in a digital format so that employers or others can see your credential.
And it is so important these days, right? Because there are so many webinars out there. There's so much learning and training. And even here at Candy, I've done through COVID, we did something called short guides to learning. So we were had to move everything online. But there is no certificate badge for that. That's great learning for you. But the idea of having something that is formally vetted, that we've been working on this for almost a year and a half. The 5 micro credentials are something in the event planning professional certificate that it can be applied to any job you might have. It could be something that you add to your role as a business owner, or if you are in a community group, or you're a volunteer and you've been part of, I work with so many nonprofits that work with these amazing volunteer groups. But there isn't a lot of training out there on how to plan an event, manage the people within that plan. And what we're talking about today is on site, your program, your process when you're actually on site. This is fantastic training for you to add to any kind of work you might be doing, no matter how, if you're just dipping your toe into event planning, or if this is something that you wanted to be doing in more of a professional way in the event industry, as we call it, there are so many ways to apply this. And this one, Heidi, one thing I wanted to chat about it's called turning your event plans into action. So what's really fun about this particular micro-credential is that not that it's crazy on site, but it is go time. And when we talk about planning an event, so much of it is behind a computer screen. It's in our binders or on a sheet somewhere, or it's in our meetings, sort of in a closed office somewhere where we're having these meetings on what we want to do. But the cool thing is about when your plan is now in action, whether it's one day or a week or whatever your conference or event or gathering might be, when we get into go time, whether you love it or hate it, I have lots of clients that say this is not my forte to be in the middle of all of what they think is a mess on site. But the beauty of it, you actually see what you had created, or you had this idea about, or you've set your purpose in motion, or you've got somebody came up with a great idea for whatever it was, music. We just went to a great music opening the other day. Well, that takes a lot of work to get there. But there was so much joy in this particular case with this organizer that was up at the front and people were cheering. And this is, a great artist that was going to play. But you could just see that in this moment, everything's coming together, even though it may not have been perfect. And there was some, relaxed kind of teasing about some things. But he had a good group of people in the room. The musician was amazing. The lighting was sort of okay. But at the end of the day, everyone had an amazing time. And I think when we think of that, putting our plans into action, it's when we can actually say, this is something that is now out in the world, and it creates that experience for people. The two gals behind me in this particular concert were just, after every song, they're like, oh, that was amazing. And, oh, the organizer baked the cookies, and like they just kept chatting about the whole experience. And as an event planner, that was just such a joy to hear the impact of gathering people together. And if it's done in a way that we remember the humanity, we remember who's in the room, remember what our purpose is, there are some things that at the end of the day, we can let go of. So when we talk about this, it's really interesting to me how many parts of event planning, we have to carry two things at once in each one of the micro credentials. There's a lot of this versus this, or if we're running fast, but we need to slow down, or we really want to do the work of planning, but we have to maybe add purpose to it. And it's kind of carrying two things at once. And in this particular micro credential, one part of what I've put together is chatting through what we call a marathon mindset. So the marathon mindset means that in many ways, if you were to run, I've never run a marathon. Have you, Heidi, ever run a marathon?
No, I've never run a marathon, no.
Not my world at all. But I've done enough events, and I'm sure you've had enough projects that it feels like there is this, we really have to hunker down and train for this. We've got to rest up for this. There's going to be a lot more strategic planning in it. We're going to find elements in what it would mean to keep going over time. And when we talk about on-site, quite often that means that we're on site for 10, 12. I've done many 20-hour days where you're needing to make sure that you're fresh and you're on and you're ready to go all the way through your event experience. And so that does take this marathon mindset where it's okay for us, to at the beginning of all of this, maybe to take some time to set our minds and even our bodies. I feel so strongly that good nutrition and moving our bodies and taking care of ourselves. And even I remember notifying my girls when I was doing this as a single mom, and I'd be like, well, mom's going to be really busy for the next 2 weeks because I've got to prep for this time, and I'd give them the information they need so they could understand it. But just preparing for a really good run. So when we start to talk about the sprint is really when it may not be a crisis, something major. It's not necessarily that somebody has a physical challenge, or maybe I've been in events where the ambulance comes and they have to take care of something. That could be something that happens in your event, but more typically a sprint might mean where your speaker doesn't show up. And you know they're on the way, but you've got to somehow get busy and figure out, how are you actually going to fill that space? Who's going to take that role? How are you going to flip your schedule maybe so that you can actually accommodate? I've had some people where the table numbering was wrong for 150 tables. I tell you, it's a sprint, because you know when people are coming in and it's not a lot of time. So you start to really focus attention on one issue or one problem so that you can actually reset the table numbers, make sure everybody knows where they're going, and you set one person in charge so that they can handle that sprint. There's a lot of things, even in smaller events. So if you're doing something in your community, a sprint might also mean that you are needing to get a little extra help during what maybe setup or tear down. That might be a part of a sprint that you don't need a whole bunch of people all day long, but you might need a few extra people. So the marathon and the sprint are really important for us to understand. And how does that actually make the event day or your event timeline actually flow better? People feel more that things are handled. They show up. There's not a panic, because we're anticipating these things. And what happens sometimes when people get into the sprint mindset and they do their whole event on the sprint mindset, what do you think happens, Heidi, when people are showing up and your team or you are in that sprint mindset, or you're in that sprint mode throughout the day? What do you think? What's the energy in the room, or what's happening?
Yeah, I would think that you're consuming a lot of your energy and resources when you're in the sprint mindset. So I think it's about making you don't want to be in sprint mode all the time, because you can't keep up with that pace. And so I think it's something that, if you have a team working on something and you're in sprint mode all the time, they're going to burn out or they're going to lose motivation. So I think it's really important to save the sprint energy and the sprint mindset for those moments where you really need that, but keep your consistent energy going when you don't.
I love that. And I think in this course, like, we start a little bit on that, but then we actually get into some of the practicalities of working that out in your event plan. And the idea of putting your plans into action. Action does take a lot of energy. Action takes a lot from us. But it also gives us energy if it's done right. It also allows us to really work within our strengths. If you're familiar with StrengthsFinder, a lot of people that I work with too, it's like, what really lights you up? What's really important to you? And when we talk about your event marathon or even your sprint, some people are really great at that. They're great at staying calm in crisis. Or some people are really good at looking at that big picture, where they remind us. I used to have a friend that would work events with me, and she'd remind me to eat, or she would remind me to take care of myself, take a break. So she had more of that marathon mindset. So working together with your team on this, and I would even suggest, Heidi, taking this particular micro credential with a team would be such an amazing way for you to actually understand better, how do we all show up in a way that we can work at our best, work with excellence when we're actually on site at the event. Let's play the video. Each one of them shares a little bit for each one of the micro credentials. This one, I guess you'll have to wait and see. I will play it here for you all in 1 second. All right, just give me a thumbs up if you can hear it. So we want to show up, we want to take a look in this micro credential on how we can transform a space, a venue, a place where people are gathering into a remarkable event experience. I am Lisa Gareau. I am your subject matter expert, and I have been your guide. You are probably here if you are either somebody that wants to dip your toe into what it means to plan and promote events. Maybe you're somebody that has been planning and promoting events for a job in your role as part of your position, and you want to brush up those skills. Or maybe you're looking at diving deep into what it means to be part of the events industry. Today, we're going to be talking about program. So in Micro Credential number 5, the word program in this context means on site at your event. Even if you are doing a virtual event, it means when you're actually there with your guests. Now, the importance of us looking at program is to say that experience on site is something that people will anticipate when they purchase a ticket or they RSVP and they say, I'm going to be showing up at your event. It is our responsibility to make sure that that is a safe and inclusive and a great experience for those that show up. But it does mean that we have to take a look, kind of unpack it, and take a look at what does it mean on site for people to have a great experience with what we've planned. So in this micro credential, you are going to learn about what it means to create a meaningful space. We're talking about not just the venue and where they're going to go and that it is a room for them to sit in. We're talking about adding meaning to those spaces, creating places where people can actually engage with each other and with what you've created in the event. We're also going to talk about engaging schedules. So what does it mean to create a schedule that has a rhythm to it? You're taking some pauses. You're giving people a chance to process and actually digest what's going on at your event. We're also going to talk about moving from functional spaces to inclusive spaces. So yes, we want to make sure everybody knows where they're going. It's easy to get around, that functionally they understand where they need to be at what times. But it is important for us to also take a look at how are we making those spaces inclusive. Then we're going to talk about real-time event needs for your guests. So that might mean making sure that everything is handled well. If there are challenges in your plan, if there's something going awry, something goes off of the tracks, how are you keeping your composure and making sure that even under pressure, you are offering a fantastic experience? Now, there are some people I coach that are on one side where they love game day. They love to be on site. They love the pressure. Then there's others that feel like they want to be hands off on site. They've done all the planning. They've done all the work. We need to find a space in the middle where we are engaging with our guests, but we want to stay calm under pressure. And I have built teams, and I've said in the past, one of the best things or one of the mantras that you can be using as an event team is that we want people to be kind. We want them to be available and calm. And we also want them to be confident in those decisions that they're making. Give yourself time to think about the spaces where your guests are going to gather. Think about how you can show up best for them, how you can orchestrate a space so that they feel like they can show up and be the best of themselves as well. Let's get started. So Heidi, in that video, there are so many elements to what it means to be on site and to doing it well. And one of the words that keeps coming up in all 5 micro credentials is confidence. What do you find when you talk about, even in your team? So you are the manager of entrepreneurship and innovation. Can you talk a little bit about what confidence looks like? And how maybe these micro credentials would start to build confidence for the learners, the people that you even serve or build programs for?
Well, I think confidence is very important because knowing where you're headed, knowing what your goal is, and knowing that you've planned well, I think increases your confidence so that when we're launching programs, there's a lot of planning that goes into it. There's a lot of time spent on that. And as you get closer to a launch time, when you get through that kind of marathon of getting all the planning in place, the launch is kind of the go time, the green light. That's where the rubber hits the road. And I think you want to feel confident in your plan. You want to feel confident that you've done all the pre-work that you need to do you've thought of all those exceptions, you've thought of all those details, and confident that, even if things don't go according to plan exactly, you've got the resources and you've got the resilience within your team to be able to tackle it with confidence.
Mm. And there are some people that confidence might be just this deep.
Yes.
Because they know how to show up, or they know, like, even when I was very young, I remember showing up into rooms and they're like, well, you must be in charge here. I'm like, no, like, not at all. But I was taught how to show up, and kind of be ready for anything almost. But what we're trying to do through these micro credentials, all 5 of them, is that the confidence is actually, the real confidence happens when you have that grounding in the knowledge of what needs to be done. Maybe, like you said, even some things that maybe some of the risks that we need to mitigate. Maybe there's some things sort of in the process that we do need to be able to step up and say, even if I don't know the answer, I'm going to try to find the answer and try to help manage and follow through with whatever that sprint, when we're talking about sprints, whatever that sprint needs to be. And when we have that confidence, what's really great is that it's not just, oh, great, I made it through, but you feel like you have a way of doing this over and over again as we're planning events, that you can just continue to lean in and have the confidence that you need to do this again. And even if your next event, I have some clients where their one event is that golf tournament every year. That's their golf tournament event. They know how to do that really well. But there's a little bit of anxiety and maybe a lack of confidence if they were to do a gala, or if they were to do maybe a film screening or something like that, where it kind of takes a different muscle for us to find the ability to step into that. But then I just want to touch on really quick this idea, and we talk about it in this micro credential as well, but this idea of a confidence competence loop. And so this was introduced to me by a coach friend years ago, and I've loved this for event planners or people that are planning events as well, because really it is in having the confidence to step into something, figure it out, do the best that you can, gain skills, maybe upskill if you need to, maybe find people that can teach you something, maybe do the learning. And then that competency, that competence comes where you've now learned more, so you actually can lean in more, and that loop of coming back to greater confidence. Now you'll have more learning, more things that are happening that you can lean into, and probably a bigger network that is going to help you as you move forward too. So really look at this learning, like whether it's this particular micro credential, or if you're looking at one of the other 5, that this is your opportunity to gain some competency in event planning in probably ways you didn't think you could before. Because as we start to step in and take that risk, one thing I love, Heidi, and I still have it back here, but in the Alberta University of the Arts, just the branding for the micro credentials, this isn't just for event planning. I think you can see it there. But it says, dreams don't belong in boxes. And what happens when we talk about this confidence competence loop, when you get out of your current box, if you've been planning a particular event, even if you've never planned an event before, you've been doing other work, and now you want to add this to your skill set. The idea of your dream not being in a box, that can be really intimidating for some of you out there, where you might feel like this is something that maybe it just feels too out of the box for you, even though we're creatives, and I call myself an artisan event planner. I really come to my work as a creative, as somebody that is in that solution finding business. And I help my clients to do that as well, really with connection at the heart. And on the back of this, it says, get the skills for the job you want. And event planning is one of those. Again, I hope you can see that there, but event planning is one of those, because as we get out of our boxes and we start to find that confidence and we get more of that competence, we'll start to apply for things or put our hand up for things probably that we wouldn't have done before. So that is one of the biggest joys in my work, is seeing people feel like now they can stand a little taller, that they can accept a position or apply for a position, or even in the context of AU Arts, maybe you're a creative or an artist and you want to showcase your work, but you're like, how do I do a CD launch? How do I put myself out there as an artist and do an exhibit? There are ways to do it. And that's why we've created these courses, really layering on top of each other in a way that you will have that confidence once you leave these courses, each one of them, that you'll be able to step in. And the beauty too, Heidi, is that AU Arts has given me the green light to be facilitating all 5 of these micro-credentials. So I will be with you all on the journey. If you choose to enroll, you're going to have myself and others that have contributed to the course in a way that you're not alone. And anytime we step out of a box, I don't know, Heidi, if you've had that experience, but when we step out of a box, there is a bit of that, oh gosh, now it's me. now I'm on my own. And I would guess the other micro-credentials as well, but in particular, these event planning micro-credentials, we want to make sure that we're with you along. I say always that I'm with you on your planning journey, and this is no different in these courses as well. Heidi, do you want to maybe just chat a little bit about why, like how someone could, whether it's the event planning micro-credentials or how someone could layer the micro-credentials in a way that will really serve them no matter where they're at in their work or what their world looks like, what kind of skills they need to learn. Why have you created the micro-credentials that it's almost like build your own adventure in learning? Can you explain that a little bit for us?
Yes, well, I think we want to meet learners where they're at. And so even though there are 5 micro-credentials in the professional certificate for event planning, you don't have to start with the first one. You start with where you're at, where your need is. Maybe you're already in the midst of planning an event and you're getting, a bit concerned about the action, the day of the event itself, and you think, you know what, I think I need to start with turning your events into action, this micro credential. And I think you can decide to do that. You don't have to do it in the order from the start to the finish. Even though we do have 1 through 5, I don't think that everyone is going to be in the same place in terms of their learning and where they want to start their journey. And so I think that was really important for us to provide that flexibility. And you can do a couple of them that are most relevant for you and do a couple more later, or, you can kind of pick where you're at this particular time that you're interested in learning more.
The whole idea was that people could enter at any one of these. And if you've been planning events for a long time and you feel like, well, I already know my plan or I've got things in motion, but we've got one on communication, we've got one that is more about your purpose. And even for some of my clients where they're already maybe a month or 2 months out from their event, understanding how to find your purpose and really lock in your purpose before you're planning is a really great exercise, even as you're going into your event. And then for next year, how do you start really on a really solid foot? So what I'm going to do is throw up a poll here. So I'm going to read through each one of these because if you're watching this, so answer the poll if you can. But if you are just interested in taking a look at what all 5 of them are, then this will give you that quick overview, and then reach out to me. I've been saying all along, I basically live on LinkedIn. So you can reach out there or reach out just through all of our channels here and let us know which one really would be most relevant for where you're at today. So we're going to start with, I'll just go through all 5 of them kind of in the order they were created, but again, you can start anywhere. So the first one was opportunities in event planning. So this is where you can discover your path to planning events and explore the impact you can make through the events you plan. The second one is strategic event planning, and that's where you can lean into practical tools that are needed to create meaningful event experiences while monitoring progress and mitigating potential challenges. Then we've got engaging and managing stakeholders. So this is all about the people in your planning. So this one is exploring communication strategies, partner agreements, leadership approaches that foster a positive event planning culture. And then we've got effective communication. This one is more, I would call this more about promotion, getting the word out about your event. You'll learn the essential skills for crafting clear, inclusive messaging to engage diverse audiences when planning an event. And then this last one that we're chatting about today, turning plans into action. So this is where we're anticipating pressure points, optimizing event space, and bringing your event plans to life with confidence. Now, if you're not sure, again, if you're not sure, I'll end that poll. If you're not sure where to start, reach out to Heidi or myself. We can talk through these, all 5 of them with you. And know that no matter where you start, you're going to actually get so much, not just technical information, but you're going to get really a human approach to event planning, training, and learning that I don't believe is really anywhere formally like this. That you can be taking anywhere, anytime. You can start at any one of these 5, but you can actually start anytime. So you don't have to wait for your group to all sign up and then you all start on the same date. You can start whenever you're ready. And I have amazing colleagues all over the world. And I know that all of these micro credentials are built with you in mind as well. So we are here in Canada. Alberta University of the Arts sits close to downtown Calgary, Alberta, Canada, but they are built for anyone, anywhere, anytime. So exciting that we are able to offer these to you all now. They're all live and ready for enrollment. Can't wait to see you in the course. If you're interested, let us know, or you can just go online. So this sits under the Alberta University of the Arts Business, Entrepreneurship, and Leadership page in the continuing education. So if you just scroll down here, you'll see that there is many great micro credentials that are available. And then we've got event planning here. So you'll see all 5 of them listed. And if you were to click on one of those, it takes you to another page where you can learn a little more about each one of those micro credentials. So you can do this on your own, register. You don't even have to talk to Heidi and I, but if you want to reach out, we are here for you. I would love to chat with you about it. Because this is built for anyone that is ready to take that challenge. Any other thoughts that you would have before we say goodbye today?
Well, I think for me, this is the micro credential that that I would probably need as the turning plans into action. But I think the entire series is something that will really bring those specific skills that you need to be able to develop and launch an effective event. And I think that it's unique in terms of what you'll see out in it. You bring that artisan perspective that you mentioned earlier. And I think that event planning, what we really value about it is that it is a creative process, and we're recognizing that creativity that's so fundamental to planning a successful event and running a successful event. And so I think all I can say is that you'll be getting something unique and really industry relevant and really timely. So I think that the skills that anyone will acquire from these micro credentials is something they can apply today.
Amazing. Thanks, Heidi, for joining me again for this last one. We do have one more information session that will be next week, and that's where we're going to have a couple of our great contributors just chime in, just tell you a little bit about their work, and you get to meet them here face to face via Zoom. But that'll be next week. So thanks again, Heidi, for everything, for being the champion you are, and for all of you for listening in. And I can't wait to meet you in the course. We'll see you there.
It's your thing. Do what you wanna do. Shit. I can't tell you. But it's how I get to